Hello, this is Chris Davison, and I want to give you a couple of examples of how you can use Trendliner to place trendline break and channel retracement trades graphically. Now, you may have seen various videos giving examples of this, but let me just take you through very quickly how you can do this. And there's a separate video on YouTube about the settings for Trendliner, so don't worry about the detail. This is just an outline. So on Trendliner, what you have are three lines. There is a take profit line, a stop loss line, and an entry line. And you can move these around to your heart's content, and you can move them around time frames, and you can do what you like with them. And in effect, what will happen is, as long as all of these are valid setups, if we get a close in this example, a close above a trend line towards a profit line with a tail below it, that will open a buy trade. And if it was the other way around, a close below with a tail above would open a sell trade. Clearly the direction is dictated by where the profit line is and the stop loss line, and then there are various other things we can do. But let me give you an example of how we might use this. So the first thing I'm going to do is to imagine that there is a trendline break that we want to set ourselves up for, and let the EA trade it automatically. So I'm going to say that I think this is a brilliant trendline break that might occur, and I want the profit target to be up here because it's another trend line, and I want the stop loss to be down here. Now this is a pretty rubbish setup. In fact, this is a very rubbish setup, but you get the idea. So in this scenario, if price moves along and moves along and moves along and nothing happens, then we don't trade. If price comes up here and closes above this trend line with a tail below it, it will open a buy trade with this as the take profit price and this is the stop loss price. And as soon as this trend line is hit, the trade will close. So it doesn't matter whether the trend line had a value of there, but we don't hit the trend line until there. That's when it will close. Now let's see if we can find a better setup than that. We probably can't find a better setup than that. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. That's an example of a trend line break. What about a channel retracement? And this is where I really like using Trendliner. And that's where you think, okay, I'm not entirely sure that diagram that Chris has set up is particularly brilliant, but I think there is a channel forming here. And what I want to do is to play a bounce into that channel and back down again. I can set that up by doing something like this. Now, by the way, you'll notice here, because this is an invalid setup, so we've got an entry line, a stop loss line, and the take profit line. The trend liner actually points out that it's not valid. But say I wanted to do something like this. So I think there's a bit of a channel forming here, and I want to say, okay, if price goes above this green line and then comes back down below it, I want to open a sell trade back down to this line. And this is exactly what this setup would do. Now in this example, if price comes up here, closes above this trend line and keeps on going, no trade is opened. If the price goes above here and then closes back below it again, as you might get here in a rejection, we will open the trade back down to this trend line. And you can see that it says here that we're waiting for a sell trade, and it's looking for a candle close below this line but with a high above that line. And you can use this to do whatever you want. So imagine you wanted to trade in a daily chart and you thought, well, actually, Chris, your setup was a bit rubbish, but there's a really nice let's go for something like this. I think there's a definite channel forming there, and there's a definite channel forming there, and if price goes above this level, well, I'm prepared to admit that I'm wrong. So in this example, on a daily chart, it would require a daily close below this line, having touched above it. But what I might want to say is, whilst I'm really happy with those levels, I'm prepared to look for a 1 hour close, and you can do that simply by changing the time frame. So in effect, we know that these levels are correct because they're on a daily chart, but I want to trade it from the 1 hour chart. So I'm going to look for price to come up here, tag this space, close below it. It will then open a trade from there back down to here. And that's basically Trendliner. You can use it to any trade you want to do that involves, let's put it back on a daily chart, either a break above a trend line or a rebound below it. You can set up, and you can do it on any chart you want, any time frame you want. You could even, using two charts that are the same, set up a scenario where you're going to play, if price goes above that and comes down, it will open a trade, and then have a second chart which says, actually, I think the other thing that might happen is, a bad example coming up, something like that. I don't think it's going to get to 140 in the short term, but something like this. And then if price went above it, it would open a buy trade. If it came back below it, it would open a sell trade and cancel that buy trade out. There's all sorts of things you can do, but those are the two basic setups: a trend line break and a channel retest. So that's it. I'll stop waffling. For more information on how you use the settings in Trendliner, there is a separate YouTube video, so have a look at that. In terms of getting ideas for where to place the trend line, I tend to use Rob's TFL, Trade for a Living TV channel, to take his best ideas and then use this tool to set them up. The advantage of using a tool like this is, of course, that you don't have to wait for these trades to occur. You can just set them up, and when they occur, as long as the EA says yep, it's waiting for that, in this case a buy trade, or in this case a sell trade, you can just go away, leave the chart on, leave it running on a VPS, leave it running on your laptop or whatever, and it will trade it for you automatically. Right, I really will stop waffling now. Thank you for listening. That's been how to use Trendliner.